Welcome to the Parks and Cons SoCal Park Talk, where we bring you news from the Southern California theme park scene and take you to the heart of the action at some of those parks. I'm Carmel, and this is my co-host Sean.
Hey guys, it is great to be back for another episode full of Park Talk. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last few weeks. Fun Magnification we're going to share, and why don't we kick it all off with what we call a Park Hop, and that's our news segment where we hop around some of the parks and talk about some of the news that's broke or just things of interest for us in the last few weeks here. It is not a full comprehensive list of all the news that goes on in the SoCal park scene, but some of the things that caught our attention. Always feel free to jump in the comments section and let us know if there's something we missed that you want us to pick up on in a future episode. So that's said, what's up first in the news?
Well, first up, since our last Park Talk episode, the Disneyland Resort has reopened Autopia, Jungle Cruise, and has begun the Alice Through the Looking Glass preview. Any of these big news to you?
Well, I guess, full disclosure, we've not ridden Autopia, we've not ridden Jungle Cruise since they've reopened. There hasn't been a whole lot visually that we've seen, whether it be on social media or in person outside the queues, that has really caught our attention to make it a priority. I did go do the preview for Alice Through the Looking Glass, which took over that former Muppet Vision Theater, former Frozen sing-along location, and that was fine. I mean, a lot of people on social media reacted to all of the repurposed Mad Tea Party stuff, but I don't see why that's a surprise. I'm always surprised when people act surprised about stuff like that, because obviously they have the props and the fixtures and things like that in the background, so they've got the oversized cards and the teacups and things like that, and it looks fine. The theater itself has all the Frozen stuff still in it. So nothing really new there, just a new exterior, new signage, new preview there. But no, I mean, none of them. I'd say Jungle Cruise is the most exciting of them, just because it's a solid ride that I know you and I enjoy doing, a few times, I don't know, a month or every couple of visits or whatever it is. It's definitely part of that rotation of things that we like to visit, as long as it's not too crazy of a line. And I'm sure it looks great, but nothing, groundbreaking, nothing that's really got people in a stir there. Also, as we were getting set up here, Dory has made her appearance over in the Turtle Talk with Crush, so we've not seen that as well. So although we've been at the parks quite a bit, we just haven't made our way in to check out some of these things in person. But yeah.
Well, we did try to go to Autopia the day that it opened, but it was a 40-something minute line, I think, and
no fast pass.
Right. So that still hasn't come back then?
Yeah, at least it wasn't as of our last visit.
Okay, so our hope had been that we could get a fast pass and then we could get on the ride, but that wasn't happening, and I don't really like doing 40-minute lines for anything, so unless it was, earth-shattering news or something that we had heard about. But the stand itself, the main building part, I guess, of Autopia looks prettier, I think, with the fresh paint, and the cartoons they're doing on the TV screen are kind of cool. But yeah, obviously we haven't made it on the ride, but it does look prettier. And I think was it on the blog, the Disneyland blog, that they mentioned that the renovations are continuing, so it seems they're not done, or something with that ride. And then I haven't even been over to Jungle Cruise yet to even see if it looks any different from the exterior.
I think a lot, if we look at what we've seen at Universal Studios Hollywood as Potter was coming in, a lot of the last couple of years has been preparation for Potter, and I think a lot of what we'll see at Disneyland in the next couple of years is preparation for Star Wars land. And so, not that these are specifically a part of that, these are just kind of sprucing some things up. There have been, the rumor mill has amped up. Mike's Chet had a good story or just an interesting story at least on, Marvel really officially moving into that Hollywood land area, and Tower of Terror being rethemed to a Guardians of the Galaxy. So there are these other bigger scale things that may or may not go on in the very near future there, but I think for right now, looking at Autopia, Jungle Cruise, and then even what's going on with the theater, these are just kind of some, slight tweaks. We'll have Soaring Over California changing to Soaring Over the World mid-June. So a few more things to come this summer. Hyperion Theater reopening with the new Frozen. So, but I think a lot is, these are smaller things, little, sprucing things up and stuff as we kind of prepare for the big news down the line as Star Wars comes. So
yeah, I guess also just preparing for the summer season for all the tourists that will be hitting the parks this summer. And I'm sure trying to make up for all the stuff that's closed, so make what is there pretty, I guess. So next up on the news, Staying at the Disneyland Resort. Disneyland hosted Star Wars Day on May 4th with special merchandise, entertainment, and photo ops. What did you think of the event?
So it was kind of announced a bit late, which is not uncommon with the Parks blog, that they announce things just a handful of days prior to that. Couldn't get out there. We did not get out there early in the day. We got out there later in the afternoon. You weren't able to go, but I did head out there. Got there probably about 4-ish, 4:30, something along those lines. And basically all the merchandise was still left. I mean, in a lot of ways, it was just kind of a glorified merch event, one of those types of things. Lots of different, or not lots of different, but there was a couple different pins. There was, T-shirts. There was these new glass cups that for, BB-8 and Chewbacca and Kylo Ren and stuff that were available as part of meals, and they still are available as of this recording at Pizza Port and Intergalactic Grill. So, I mean, there wasn't much in the way of entertainment. The big entertainment really was Path of the Jedi was put away for a day, and they were showing an episode of Star Wars Rebels, which was kind of cool. It was interesting just watching that with kind of a real mainstream audience, because it gets, from my understanding, around a couple million viewers, which really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. And everybody in there seemed to kind of be like, what is this that we're watching? So it was just kind of interesting hearing people kind of chatter, and it seemed like most people liked it, but it was just kind of like, well, what is this? This is Star Wars. I really thought we'd get some different characters showing up, like Captain Phasma or some more troopers or something, but nothing along those lines. The stage entertainment, because they said there'd be entertainment on the stage at 6 p.m. And it seemed the online accounts didn't seem to know much more. The Twitter responses to it from Disneyland officially were kind of like, there'll be activities, and it was a little bit odd and ambiguous of what it would be, but it was basically just trivia, kids alternating between kids and adults, and it was not of much interest really. They did have some cool, it was a sign, that you held up, and it was like celebrating May the 4th be with you in 2016 or whatever. There was a Ray's speeder, kind of an odd backdrop with the kind of a desert scene with Ray's speeder really small, like it was supposed to be way far in the back, but it really didn't look very good at all. But it had a huge line, and I was like, you could just go inside to Launch Bay and take a picture with a really cool version of Ray's speeder. So that was odd to me, but in general, I mean, it was fun. I'm always up for just these little fun, we talked about food and wine, or anything that's just different from yesterday is always fun, but it wasn't anything, really to write home about. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. Once again, I was kind of underwhelmed by all that they, it was like they could do all this, and then they did this, and I was like, well, it was better than not doing anything, but it didn't really, impress me in any major way. And I think that was kind of consistent for most people, because I didn't see people being super excited about anything, whether it was in person, on social media. It was a lot of like, oh, okay, this is a cute shirt, or or a pin or whatever. But it was fun, but it just wasn't a big thing. May the 4th, for those that aren't aware, was kind of a it was a fan-made holiday, just a play on words of May the 4th be with you, May the Force be with you, and then the Revenge of the 5th following it. But it's not really anything Star Wars Day besides that. I mean, I believe it's May 25th is the actual date or the anniversary of Star Wars. That's kind of the real Star Wars Day. So it's really very much like Valentine's Day or something. It's just something that a bunch of companies, put together to make it a holiday. And it's caught on steam, and it's, we just had Free Comic Book Day as well, and it's fun to have these little holidays, if you want to call them that, like that. But, underwhelming, I would say, is the best way to describe the event overall.
So seemingly in regards to the merch, was it only the pins and the shirts that were actually stated on their May 4th or May 5th? Because I know that there was other stuff released, like the Rogue One shirts started, they started selling them on May 4th, which is the first place that Rogue One merch could be purchased, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there was like a new Ewok stuff plush thing, and I think there were several other things that were released that day, but I think they're expected to be sold through the ongoing.
Yeah, so there was a droid Build-A-Figure R5 M4, like Revenge of the 5th, May the 4th. I believe he was exclusive to these couple days, or however long until they sell out. There was the pins that were for that, and also shirts that were specific with that. There was some ornaments and drinking bottles that seemed to be specific to May the 4th, but I don't know if they actually said May the 4th anywhere, but they looked, what I think the ornaments did is there was the two emblems on it. But no, you're right. I mean, I think it's Weedle is the Ewok. He was, I think, something that's just, was kind of a release. The Rogue One shirts are part of the Force for Change again. 25% of the proceeds go to UNICEF, so those are cool to see. I'm sure they'll be for sale, or they're supposed to be for sale all summer. So a couple things were kind of a release to tie into May the 4th, but the bulk of what was there, which let's say total there was maybe, if you include all 4 different cups, maybe 12 different things, and I would say probably of those 12, about half were ongoing, just kind of initial releases, and half were May the 4th related.
Yeah, when I saw the post initially from the blog, I thought, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, and initially I was thinking we need to get out there, but then it didn't seem like there was too much information coming out of too much stuff going on, so it obviously fell on the priority list. So.
And for people to know, whenever there are these events where there's like merch released in the parks, a lot of times, ironically, one of the best places to get them is at Pin Trader in downtown Disney, right across from Lego store. And that was the case. Is when I got there, they had pretty much everything except the Rogue One shirts. And I kind of passed them up, and I was like, I'll get them in the park or whatever, and it didn't seem like a real sense of urgency. And then I got in the park, and most things, D Street had a couple things as well, but the park was pretty well cleaned out, except for, they had a handful of everything, but not as much as actually Pin Traders had. And then they restocked in the park, and then it was like, okay, well, there's more stuff here as well. But that said, even there's just more shirt sizes, everything out there. The only thing that was really sparse was the Rogue One shirts, and those they had really, in males, they only had, I think it was 4X, and then female, they had kind of a smattering of different sizes, but that was fairly rare. I found an extra large Rogue One a couple days later, though, so they're restocking, and then the cast members said they're getting in. Cast members in general said that it was much less busy than that they had expected. They were selling a lot less of like the glasses and stuff. Like, no, I didn't see anybody buying the glasses. We bought a Chewbacca and a Kylo Ren, but didn't see many others. And I'm sure they'll sell out over the course of the next few weeks or however long. Maybe they already have as of today. But I think it was just, in general, didn't quite pack the crowds with it being a school day, middle of the week. I think it was just a little bit less busy than anybody thought it was going to be. So
interesting. Okay. So next up in the news, let's see, on May 7th, Universal Studios Hollywood and MEND, which is short for Meet Each Need with Dignity, celebrated their 25th year of providing Christmas in spring to low-income families. This is the second year we've attended this event. What are your thoughts on the event?
I like it a lot. I mean, it's really tough for us to get out there. It's in Pacoima. It's quite a drive. I mean, but I really like it. Not a lot of sites cover it, although everybody that really covers Universal Studios Hollywood, I think, is invited to it. I mean, it's something I think they do want coverage for. But obviously, it's not as sexy as a new ride coming in or whatever. But I'm, excited to cover it because I think it's really cool. I mean, these team members from Universal Studios Hollywood, not just the executives, but the team members in general are donating time. Universal Studios is donating a ton of cool gifts, Minion plush and books and nice bags and all sorts of stuff. Santa's there, the toy soldiers, the Minions, Shaggy, Scooby, Dora and Diego. They're serving like Christmas-style dinner. You've got Larry Kirschwell, the park president of Universal Studios Hollywood, out there as well, participating and serving food. And it's just like you've got all these people giving these kids that can't otherwise go to the park, and presumably, obviously, maybe, but I mean, with ticket prices and things like that. Some people asked when we did a Periscope if part of the day was giving them tickets to go to the park. And I'm like, I don't think so. There's nothing that I have seen with that. And even if you could get in the park, I mean, then the food and drink and parking is so expensive. So I think this is really, it's taking families that are in risky socioeconomic situations, that are on the MEND program, and providing them with a little bit of relief for a few hours to get a slice of the theme park right in their own neighborhood. They don't have to have any sort of transportation. They can walk right down the street and be able to participate. And I'm really glad we went last year. I'm really glad we went this year. I look forward to going next year. I hope Universal Studios and MEND continue doing this, because these types of good deeds, I think, are important, and I think covering them are important. So no, I enjoyed it a great deal, seeing it all. What about you?
No, I did too. I mean, it's cool that they have like the carnival games set up for the kids to be able to play, and of course the character meet and greets that you mentioned, and there's a DJ playing music, and there's a violinist.
Yeah, he's great. He plays in City Walk and stuff, I think.
He seemed familiar. Okay, and then so he's over in kind of the more dining area. And yeah, they get a full-on meal and get all these gifts and stuff. And there's an arts and crafts area, and the kids get to make stuff that they then get to take home with them. So yeah, it's really enjoyable event to observe and to take part in the coverage way. The Santa they have is a really good Santa, has the authentic true beer and stuff, and he seemed to enjoy being there. And everybody, both the people who are participating, the attendees, and the staff, the volunteers, the Universal people, everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. And it was really nice this year that it was nice and cool. It was overcast. Last year it was very warm, and so it was tough being out in the sun and stuff, but this time it was really nice, cool weather. And this is the second year that the second year that we've attended, but both days it fell on Free Comic Book Day also. So it caused us to go out into a different area to experience some different comic book stores, so that's kind of cool too. But yeah, the fact that Universal does this is great, and obviously they have lots of resources, and I'm sure that there's other things that they do out in the communities, but this one in particular stands out just because it is Christmas and spring, and there's the gifts and Santa Claus and everything else. So yeah, Shaggy and Scooby were cool, and yeah, just an enjoyable event. I think, yeah, like I said, I didn't see anybody not having a smile and not enjoying themselves. So,
and as we're recording this, we've gathered a bunch of video from the event. We had a Periscope up that'll already be taken down by the time this is on the air, but you're obviously working on putting together a video. So if you guys want to check out more from the event and see what it all was, definitely take a look at it. And definitely look into Meet Each Need with Dignity, Mend, and obviously there's lots of other great nonprofits out there doing amazing work, but they seem to be a really good organization that advocates very much for their population and tries to make good relationships. So kudos to all involved on that great project.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so from there we are moving on to our segment we call Magnification. And Magnification is where we take a look in detail at something, an adventure through the inner space of one specific park topic. And this time we're going back to LegoLand, California to talk about Ninjago World. And so Ninjago World's popped up a couple times on the show over the last couple months here as construction of this big project. I mean, it's really, in terms of scale, one of the larger things going on this year. Obviously, it's not on the scale of Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios Hollywood, but it's a pretty big thing. It's a land with a ride, you know, a really interesting type of technology and use there, ride all the way around. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take you to LegoLand for the media event so you can see a little bit of the opening ceremonies. Then we're going to take you for a POV onto the ride so you can see a little bit of the queue, the ride, and then we'll come back and talk about this new attraction at Ninjago, or this new attraction at LegoLand, California.
Have you ever dreamed of being a ninja or a spinjitzu master, using your powers and skills as a force for good? If you said yes, then we need your help today. My friends, welcome to Ninjago World! It is here where your training will begin for spinjitzu. We will test your balance, your speed, and your agility before using your skills and the powers of the 4 elements in the ultimate test, Ninjago, the ride. When you leave here today, some of you may need to register your hands as lethal weapons. But first, you must train. Now, remember, the ninjas that you will see today are experts in the art of spinjitzu, trained professionals. So, please do not try these skills at home without the permission of Sensei Mom or Sensei Dad. Start your training by learning the ways of the Red Ninja. Of the element of fire. Maybe one day you can be as powerful as Kai, but definitely not as hot. Test your balance on Kai's spinners here in Ninjago World. If you enjoy just chilling out, then train like the White Ninja. Like Zane, you will be able to freeze anyone in their tracks by mastering the element of ice. But do not expect to be a titanium robot fighting machine overnight. Tap into your inner imagination and create Lego models inspired by our ninjas at Zane's Temple Build. Are you fast? And you? And you? Do you want to be lightning fast? If so, then train like the Blue Ninja! Master the element of lightning and be a shocking success like Jay. After training in Jay's Speed Button Challenge, you will have lightning fast speed. If you feel quick, test yourself in Jay's lightning drill. Test your agility and training like the Black Ninja. Like Cole, master the element of earth by learning how to control the power of shockwaves. You will have everyone quaking in their shoes. Test your agility by scaling a rock wall at Cole's Rock Climb. We are all excited to battle alongside you as we combat evil forces with Spinjitzu. These 4 elements will be with you too as you train on Ninjago the Ride. With the power of 4, great things can be accomplished. Are you ready to test your skills in this new 4D adventure featuring cutting-edge technology never used before in North America? Are you ready to harness the power of fire, ice, lightning, and earth in order to battle the evil forces that await you? Do you think you have what it takes to face the great devourer? Well, we will need all of your help. This is Ninjago World and Ninjago the Ride. Now, let the training begin.
Wow, I'm a little covered in Ninjago confetti. I'm Julia Strada, I'm the Media Relations Manager. Thank you so much, Sensei. Thank you, ninjas. Thank you, drummers. Thank you to everybody here who's come out to see Ninjago World. Keep in mind, this is a sneak preview. It doesn't open to the public until May 5th, so you are seeing it before anybody else. This is really a technological breakthrough. This is the first time this has been done in North America with Ninjago the Ride. You are actually controlling the outcome of the ride just by using your hands. I will give you a little forewarning because I have tried the ride last night. Give yourself some time to train like a ninja. It doesn't come easy. Your competitive nature will come out when you're trying the ride. We do need a little bit of time just to clear out some things here so you can get by safely and soundly and into the ride. Thankful that the rain stopped. Thank you for coming even though it was drizzling and raining just a little bit. But we hope you enjoy Ninjago World as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Tell your friends, tell your family, opening May 5th here at LegoLand, California Resort. Please enjoy your day. Thank you.
If you want to race the car down. Any word? How is it? Yeah, let's go! Yeah? Yeah? Look, there was down there!
It actually worked out really, really well. And let's go do a video. You guys can do your video.
Look, it's the Disney! It's the Disney!
The crap is Dominic. You might have a good time, but you won't do very well.
to NINJAGO. Come in, this way. Use ice!
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that look at the festivities there. So first off, we should say before we talk too much about this is that we do have a whole podcast dedicated to just this topic. So we'll cover it briefly here and give some thoughts, but we did record, as we usually do, on our podcast, Parks and Cons. You can find it on iTunes and Stitcher. While we were there at LegoLand, California, gave all of our thoughts, and it's really super fresh there versus now where it's a couple weeks later that we're talking about. So go ahead and check that out. But talking about that, whether it be the land, the food, or the ride itself, what were some of the thoughts that you had about this new inclusion?
I thought the ride was really cool. I liked it more once we actually watched the tutorial video that is available while you're in line, and I got a better feel for where I actually should be shooting from and what hand motions to use. Because the first, so we rode it, what, 8 or 9 times?
We rode it 8 times, yeah. And not sure how well it shows on video, but yeah, the idea is the technology is you're using, you have to keep your hands 8 inches above, and instead of shooting a gun, like something like Voyage Iron Reef at Notch, you are shooting your powers of ice and fire and whatever else.
Air?
Yeah, air, earth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, yeah, once we actually, so the first probably 5 times I found the ride rather frustrating because I couldn't figure out where my hands were supposed to go. I had them too low, and then there were some calibration issues where even once I had a feel for where my hands should be, the things were still shooting out to the bottom of the screen. So hopefully those things will get adjusted or got adjusted before the official opening to the public. But no, I think it's a cool ride, and I enjoyed it once I got a better feel for it. The land itself, it's obviously not a huge land, but it's a great addition, and I think it adds a lot to the park and gives both the young and the more mature audience an extra thing to do there. Yeah, the fact that it takes so much time to get adjusted to, though, I'm not sure how that's going to translate for everybody. Once you're waiting in a line for an extended amount of time, then you finally get on the ride, and you can't get your things to shoot right because you're not adjusting properly. So after probably the 5th or 6th time, then I had a better feel, then I enjoyed it a lot more. But those first several times, I kept wanting to go on it again and again out of frustration, more so just I can't figure this out. Why can't I figure this out? But the ride obviously is the main thing. The other extra tasks, the rock wall and the spinning thing, seem like kind of just little activities that you could almost find at the park down the street.
Right.
So that's obviously just meant to be a little extra to add to the land. And the food, I enjoyed the sandwiches quite a bit, but there isn't too much in the way of extra food there. But I enjoyed the land quite a bit.
It's a different type of food. I mean, the Vietnamese sandwiches is a different offering there, which is cool. LegoLand's always been really good about their menu and offering, having a diverse type of offerings there. The ride, I mean, it's interesting because there is this paradox with the push to have more interactive rides, which is, if you think about every ride you and I have ever ridden that has interactive technology has failed at some point, whether it's Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear, Iron Reef, whatever. And so the interactive elements really add this surprise, this challenge, this competition that makes you want to repeat, makes you want to get back in line, makes you want to ride it again. But the downside is when it doesn't go right, it takes more upkeep. It's a more difficult thing to make sure it's running correctly. As you said, calibration becomes an issue. It has to be constantly addressed. And so when it's not running correctly, then it becomes super frustrating. Even more frustrating than, an animatronic not working on a dark ride or something like that. And so because the competitive spirit's added to it when it doesn't work, that gets frustrating. So that, I think, is just a constant challenge. It's a paradox that all the parks face when they add these types of rides. That said, this one, I don't remember the exact numbers. I think I talked about on the podcast of how many times it worked perfectly versus how many times just the calibration was off. But once you really got into it, by the time we were on there our 5th, 6th, 7th time, you could really tell where you were going to be firing at, and you could immediately tell when it wasn't calibrated well. And it's like, okay, I've been doing this and it's working well, and you've got a really big score. A couple times you and I had some of the highest scores of the day, and then literally the next ride, all of a sudden it's like you're not controlling it anymore, and you're shooting here and it's going up there, down there, or whatever. So that can be a challenge, obviously, but hopefully, it's a new ride. It was, obviously, it's very rough at the time. It's a week before even grand opening. Since that time, it has had its grand opening. And then you have to wonder always with just the mass public, anybody riding it for the first time, are they even going to notice if it's not, that'll be interesting. I think this will be a really interesting one to see because, as you said, it's very family friendly. It's something that adds an element where the entire family will want to engage. It's not something where just parents will get dragged along with their little kid just to go on it for them. It's something that parents will want to go on and play. It's something that, as a family, I love the scoring. I think we talked on the podcast with the scoring. You had your entire car had a cumulative score. So not only were you challenged against each other and you had your individual score, but as a car, you were going against 3 other cars. And so it's like we as a team, as a Ninjago team, we're trying to learn and better our skills. And so I liked that quite a bit. So I'm definitely happy it's there. It's immediately the #1 ride in the park. It's immediately the most technologically advanced ride that they have. It has the highest capacity. It's really their biggest thing immediately. And much like Universal Studios Hollywood, obviously a different level again, but it's just kind of neat when you open something up and you're like, okay, we're opening it up, and immediately it's up here. It's our, going to be one of our busiest lands. It's going to be our biggest ride. We'll see how popular the food is and the other ancillary parts of it. But congrats to the LegoLand team for bringing this, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. I'm curious how often we'll ride it because I'm sure we're not going to wait in huge lines for it as we don't with mini rides. But I definitely look forward to going back. I wish I could go there, and ride it 10 more times, tomorrow or whatever. But it was fun. You do want to go back. You do want to ride it.
And I did see while we were there that LegoLand has a new, I don't know how new it is. We don't go there often enough, but they have a upsell sort of front of the line sort of option where you can basically kind of make reservations for your ride time.
Right.
So that may be something we do in the future because that is one of the rides that's included in that program or in that system. So
Right.
if we want to deal with or do less with lines and stuff, we may want to upgrade to that. But I thought that was interesting because I didn't know that was available at the park until we were there that day. But yeah, it's definitely fun, enjoyable land, and I'm interested to see how things finally look because we were there like a week or almost a week before the official grand opening, and there were still tweaks that they were making and still changes that they were making and finishing touches. So it would be interesting to go back there and see how things look finally. It was a little interesting that there were a handful of people that we heard because there was an event where people brought their children and stuff, and I heard several times parents asking the kids, so do you want to get back on the ride? And the kid was like, no, it's okay. And then they left the land.
Yeah, and we knew some people that their kids, and they're just like, yeah, they were okay with it, but they were ready to go do other things in LegoLand, and that was kind of surprising. So there might be they can obviously change the calibration of things to make it easier to score more points or things like that. And there is a level with games, a very important point where it has to be challenging enough that you feel inspired to push, but it also can't be so challenging that you feel like your scores don't matter. And how to make it so that both adults and children can feel that certain level of drive to want to play is really interesting. I mean, it may just be set up, it may have been just set up a little too hard right now on a harder level, if you want to call it that, for when we were there. But that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, because if it becomes such an easy scoring game that everybody's just not on par, people may not be as interested on the adult side, but conversely, kids may not want to go on it as well. So we'll see. Hopefully you guys get out there to LegoLand, check it out, give it a ride, see what you think, and hopefully they have a lot of success with it, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I wish them the best, and it was awesome just what we were able to experience, but we'll see how things get tweaked as time goes.
All right, for our last segment then, park tips.
So next up we have our segment that we call Park Tips. And this is where we bring you some tips to help improve your future visits to theme parks. Sometimes these tips are going to be kind of generic, general types of tips, and other times they're going to be more specific to a specific park or specific situation. And this time we're talking about a little trick to help reduce your boarding times on the Disneyland Tram.
Yeah, so this was interesting because as much as we go to the parks, it's not often that there's tricks that reveal themselves that we didn't know or have down. But the other day, for May the 4th actually being there, I thought this was interesting because whenever we board the trams, which we don't board the trams very often, we usually park in Mickey and Friends at Disneyland because we like going through the Disneyland Hotel, downtown Disney, looking for new things, documenting stuff for the website, all of that kind of stuff. But that said, we usually walk it because the trams are just, tiresome. Waiting for the trams are tiresome. And also, it cuts out all that area that I do like to check out. But that said, the other day, it was just kind of focusing it to May the 4th. Went to get on the tram. Now, you always push us to kind of go towards the ends of the tram because all the strollers are there, and there usually is seats that are opened up in that area. But what I did not realize, and maybe this is very common to everybody watching this, but the very, very, very end of the tram pass, so you have like that end where there's all the strollers and it's just a mess, and you usually look at that, and at least everybody I know, you look at that mess and you just stay away from it because it's just the stroller mess for that last cart. But one of the CMs there was pointing out that there's one last queue on the right of the strollers, like an official tiny little queue with a little partition closed off there, and that one tiny queue that usually no one goes to because everybody's in line for the stroller area is about 3 or 4 worth of rows of the tram. So pretty much her contention was, and what we saw was, that's like almost always open. So if you head down, you see the mess and you go just to the right of the mess, usually there's no one there and you can just jump on the tram there. And so I found that really interesting. We've only tried it, or I should say I've only tried it now twice. It was once there and once back on it. But I'm curious to keep an eye on that more and see how much that's known or how much that's utilized or where that's at on those busiest days. Again, for me, it's not going to make me want to ride the tram more because I still prefer the walk through downtown Disney in general. If I wanted to ride a tram, I'd just be fine parking at Toy Story or whatever. I like going through downtown Disney. But it is interesting because there are certain occasions where we do opt for that. And I think it's a worthwhile trick to kind of keep an eye on and try out. So if you've tried that out, if you know more about that, let us know. If you found it to be successful in the past, I'd be curious to hear more about that. But yeah, very end, literally the last, the goal is to basically sit in the last row of the tram is kind of how it worked out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, those stroller areas loading and then the disabled wheelchair loading, those always look a little messy usually. So like you said, I do usually look to see, are those seats really full or not, because lots of times the way the CMs are helping load things, they're also kind of blocking those rows
Right.
too. So sometimes it's a matter of, just looking closely. But those far extremes, and then, I not really paid attention too much to that. But the very end.
And I think it's just, the psychology of it is obvious as you see this mess of strollers. It's just, this long, and you're just, psychologically, you just don't want to go down there. There's just, I know, at least for myself, I see that. It's like, I want to stay as far away from that as possible. But in fact, it obviously hides a much easier path right beyond it because the stroller people take up the first 2 rows of that tram. Then the rest of it is if they have extra people that kind of fall over there. But otherwise, you could just walk to the end. And when we got on in both occasions, it was a packed tram both ways. But that was totally open both ways. So, as I said, mileage may vary, but found it kind of an interesting and timely thing since we just tried it out a couple days ago. So,
Very good. We'll have to use that.
all right, so I think that's a good point to wrap up this episode of Park Talk. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you on social media?
Okay, well, you can reach me directly on Twitter at connoisseur, CON_NOISSEUR, or you can email me at carmel@parksandcons.com. And I also help with the social media as well at Parks and Cons. But Sean?
And for me, you can find me at _con_fluence, at the Confluence, on social media, Twitter, and also manning all of our various social media platforms. If you're interested in more talk of this nature, but maybe focus a little bit more on conventions, again, subscribe to this channel. We alternate. We do have this weekly talk show, and we alternate between 1 week parks, 1 week cons. And so there's a lot of overlaps there, and hopefully you'll check that out. Also, if interested in more talk in general, we do have our podcast, 1 or 2 episodes, usually a week, where we take you to the floor or the event or wherever it is that we're at and record directly from there and try to bring you into that moment. Please help us out by, again, helping spread the word. Tell your friends about what we do. If you're interested in this show, please subscribe, and please encourage others to subscribe. Definitely a big goal for us in 2016 is to keep pushing those subscriptions there on YouTube, so please check that out. Again, you can find us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope, all of them at Parks and Cons. So I think this is a good point to wrap up, and until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.